Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In our reading in Jeremiah, we find the people who were left over after the Babylonian invasion in kind of a perplexing situation. There was a lot of political turmoil going on. Gedaliah had been murdered by Ishmael, and then Johanan kind of rescued some of the people from Ishmael, and they're kind of wondering what they should do. Should they stay in the land of Judah, or should they go down to Egypt? And they inquire of Jeremiah for him to ask the Lord, what they should do. And they basically say, whatever the Lord wants us to do, we'll do it. Well, Jeremiah asks the Lord, and the Lord tells them not to go to Egypt, but to stay in the land. And if they stay there, he will build them up. He will protect them. They will be able to flourish in the land there. But if they go down to Egypt, it will not go well for them. And so this is the message that Jeremiah relays to them. And they say, well, you know what? We're going to Egypt anyways. It was too dangerous, they felt, in the land of Judah to stay and to remain there. They felt like probably the king of Babylon would come in, seeing them as rebels, and destroy them. And so they become afraid and they go down into Egypt. And when they go down to Egypt, they actually begin to worship the idols found there in Egypt and go back to some of the idols that they had already been previously worshiping many generations previous. And so this becomes a bad situation. The Lord basically tells them that the king of Babylon is going to come in and he's going to take over Egypt, and you guys are going to be either taken by the sword, captivity, pestilence. It's not going to go well for you because you didn't listen to what I told you. And so as we think about all of this, we can think about it in terms of the spiritual life. We too are in the good land. We are in Christ. We can think of Judah as, or the inhabitants living in Judah as us abiding in Christ. The Lord has told us very specifically that we are to abide in Christ, to live in Christ, to be clothed with Christ, to live a life in union with Christ. And so we have a choice of whether we're going to live in union with Christ, abiding in Christ, or if we're going to go down to Egypt. That is, if we're going to live in the world, Egypt symbolizing the world. When we're living in Christ, there's a lot of hardship that sometimes comes with that. We have spiritual enemies. We got Satan and the dark forces, the dark forces of spiritual forces that are working against us. Talked about it in Ephesians chapter 6. We got our own temptations and stuff we have to wrestle with. Persecutions, trials might come in connection to abiding in Christ. And so it might become very tempting for us to stop abiding in Christ and to begin living for the world, where we think we might find comfort, we might find peace, we'll find rest from the struggle, and we just want to slip into the world sometimes and get away from all the struggles and the troubles and the trials that come from abiding in Christ. But we have to be very careful that we don't slip into this mindset. We need to remember that the Lord has made great promises for us if we will but abide in Christ. Just as he made the promise for them that he would build them up and not uproot them, that he would establish them, that he would protect them, that he would watch over them, they could be his people. That's what we have in Christ. And if we abide in Christ, we know that the Lord will watch over us and that he will build us up in Christ, and we will be able to plant firm roots in the ground, in the spiritual soil of God himself, and that we will be able to be established not only in this life, but for eternity. So we have to resist the temptation to go into the world and to seek in the world what we can only find in Christ. In James chapter 4, there James very much warns those who were worldly Christians to not get caught up in worldliness. He says, to be caught up in worldliness, he calls them adulteresses. You're basically cheating on the Lord by going back to the world, going back to the things that you came from, and living a life for the world, just trying to seek your own desires and things like that. So our encouragement today as we do our reading in Jeremiah is to abide in Christ, to remain in the land, as it were, and to keep our minds focused on the Lord, on Christ, and what He's done for us, and to continue to abide in Him in communion and union with Him, and live our lives completely given over to the Lord, and not allow our minds to drift back into worldliness, but to give ourselves wholly to Him. And if we do that, if we hold on to Him through faith, we'll receive the promise of good things. If we slip into the world, we'll find ourselves back into the destructiveness and the sins and the destructiveness of the world that might pull us away from the Lord, and we might lose much of what we've gained through our relationship with Christ. So these are some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.